Hey, welcome back again, and we are still working on the Triumph TR6. As you can see from last episode, we got the dashboard roughed in and cut down to size, and yeah, we got to make some big moves here now. So, hope you stick around. Now, the dash went into the car last week, just, roughed in. We still have a lot of work to do on it, but we have to really make some big moves here now. It does not look like I'm going to be able to keep everything where I was hoping to keep it. It'd be great to keep this right where it is with all the console and my center unit. It would be great, but unfortunately, the steering column is here, which would just kind of feel very weird. Driving like this and having my gauges way off to one side. So this is definitely going to have to move over. But before we can really dial that in, we need to get our steering column into place. Now, in order to do that, we need to get the subframe back into the car, which can't really be done easily with the car on the rotisserie. But I want to keep the car on the rotisserie. So let me show you what I mean. Now, when I built this rotisserie, or when I assembled it, I put these blocks onto the extensions from the rotisserie in order to support the frame. But the issue is that they now interfere with one of the mounting points for the underside of the subframe. And as you can see, the subframe comes quite a bit, further forward. So what we need to do is we need to expand this. We need to move this part of the assembly further forward so that we can clear the subframe. That way I can mount the subframe up underneath the front of the car and yet still have all of the ability to rotate it around. So in order to do that, I'm going to take a number of measurements from the subframe. I'm going to translate them over to here and see how far back I need to move things, whether I need to cut things and re-weld it, and get this opened up so that the subframe will bolt on and not be interfering with the rotisserie. Now, the other thing that I need to do before I can take the subframe out of here is I need to remove the motor from the subframe. Now, this also means that I have, and I was thinking about this last night, is I have the steering rack is attached in here, but obviously it's power steering, which goes to a pump that is on the motor. So I'm going to have to take a look at that and see, I would rather not disconnect and have to bleed my steering rack and do all of that crap. So I'm going to see if it's going to be a simple thing for me to be able to just remove the steering pump from the motor and strap it to the side out of my way while I'm working, if that's a possibility. If not, then I'm probably going to have to remove it. But there's going to be a little bit of work that has to be done in order to get the motor out from this subframe assembly. We also need to weld a bar all the way across to support this, and we need to make a bar to go across the front here so that I don't get I don't get it twisting this way, and I don't get it twisting this way. So first things first, let's make sure that we can do this on the rotisserie before we move on, because if we can't do it on the rotisserie, I'm not taking the motor out because I got to put this down on the floor anyways, so why cause more work for myself? So let's mess with this for a bit. Okay, well, I've taken a good look at this, and what I need to do, and this is the order I'm going to do it in, is I'm going to support the frame on something. I'm going to unbolt these. I'm going to loosen that nut down there, or this nut, these over here, slide this back and bolt it with one bolt here. Then I'm going to cut off this piece, shorten it, okay, and move it back again right up against the front of the car and weld it back into place. And what that'll do is that'll take this piece, which will now be over this end bolt, we'll shift it right up against the car here. Then, since I have this heavy duty bolt here, what I'll do is I'll bring an L bracket down and here and weld it right to this and bolt it to that. And then that will support the front of the car. So let's build something to hold this up and make this happen. All right, attempt number one. That won't go underneath by half an inch. You know, that is, that's not going to work. Let's try something different. Right, that worked a treat. Just sitting on top of the bench with some supports. I don't know if you noticed, but I cranked the thing to help myself cantilever it, and that's nice and solid now. So I am comfortable now that the weight is all being taken up off of the wheels there. So what I'm going to do now is just loosen things up and get ready to take that bracket and cut it. Okay, well, running a 110 MIG welder on heavy gauge, it pops the circuit breaker a few times. So anyway, but it's, I've welded this together. I think that's going to be good enough for right now. I'll likely give it a TIG weld when I yank the TIG welder out, but it's good enough for me to get this all balanced and get it, just make sure everything is level, which it should be, and just get it all buttoned up and ready to accept the subframe. So let's just get this here onto under its own weight and just make sure that it's okay and go from there. That is under its own weight now. It's supported, which is good. It's essentially it's cantilevered. I mean, this is not gonna twist, right? Like, it's not gonna twist this way. So even though there's weight on this pressing down, it's pulling on this as well, right? Which is pulling down on that and pulling down on this, which is welded solid to the front of this bar. So she ain't going nowhere. which I am happy about. So now we got to turn our attention to this, which means I got more welding to do. I keep popping that fuse, so I'm probably going to have to pull out the TIG welder in order to weld this up properly. As I've got some pretty heavy gauge material here. So yeah, let's get this that piece cut and ready for welding. Right, so in order to make this actually come apart, I've just decided I really do need to take the power steering pump with the motor out. There's just too much stuff because it actually has a power steering cooler as well that's part of the system. So in order to do that, I have to drain this. They say, you know, use a syringe, a clean syringe to suck that dry. I'm going to get that as empty as I possibly can using the size syringe I have. Then I need to get down in here on the power steering pump, and this is the upper hose, but there is a hose down at the bottom that I can't see right now. Is it at the bottom? Anyway, I need to release that and drain the system. So that's what I am going to do now. So what I've done is I've just taken a piece of cardboard and flexed it into place, and just put my oil capture or my oil capture tray there, so that when I loosen this nut, anything's just going to end up in the cardboard and flow off into that container. So let's get a wrench on that and loosen it off and drain it out. Well, what I'd also like to do is actually take the hoses off of the. There's one there, and there's one underneath, right off of the steering rack. There's another one that it crosses over and goes to the other side, and then of course there's one at the back there. Jeez, there's hoses everywhere. What's going on? How many hoses does this thing need? Oh my God, it's got two little hoses here. It's got two large hoses here. It's got hoses for days. And crossover hoses. There's a hose that goes here. What a hoser. It's like Hoser the Hoserian. That's what I'm going to call this thing. Right, so I took the front cover off of the front clip there, off the front there to get at this. I've removed this secondary cooler here and just released the quick release clip, which made it kind of easy. I've bagged everything so that I don't get dirt inside. I've got everything out of the way, and I released the one bolt there and one on the other side that hold the engine to the subframe. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get out the engine lift, and I'm going to slowly jack it up and just make sure that there's nothing that's still connected. And if everything looks good, I will just lift it straight up, pull it out the front and move it off to the side somewhere. And that way I have the subframe ready to be put underneath the car. So let's get this motor out. Well, that takes care of that. Yeah. So as you can see, I got the front section taken out here. So next, that would actually wasn't too bad to do, but considering most of the car isn't here, it would be easy. So next up is going to be welding that bar across the top of the shock towers and making a bar to go between the bumper mount, something to hold that in place so that I don't get any flexing. I might need to do some uh, other mounting as well. I'm just looking at it, and thinking to myself that no matter what I do, it's going to be kind of wobbly. So even with a heavy bar welded across the top and one across the front there, I might need to put something just tacked in place at the back. So what I might do is just tack to the top, weld to the top of this. It'll be up and out of my way. So let's slide this, give ourselves some room, get that front piece bolted back on so that I know that it's in the right place, and get that bar welded, and then we can move on from there. Skip right off. Well, aside from barbecuing my arm over here, which is just hot, that is welded. So yeah. So next on the agenda is to put some stuff on my arm to help with the burn that I just got, and then we will let this cool down. And then after it's cooled down, we will remove it from the subframe, and we're going to give that subframe a bit of a scrub and a wipe down, etc., just to get the dust and the crap off of it. I don't need to be messing around with that. So yeah, arm, stuff, subframe clean. Okay, that was an hour's worth of work. Oh, okay. Wow, it's hot in here. So as you can see, the subframe is in place. And the suspension will kind of sort of, yeah, it'll sort of sit inside the fenders anyways. It's going to sit probably about like that. I don't know if it's hard to see, but it's about half in, half out. But this car has nice rounded fenders, as well as I'm going to have to widen the fenders as well. So I'm going to have plenty of room for the suspension, that's for sure. Especially once I get also, you notice these are sitting right down low. There's no springs in them right now. So they are significantly reduced in their, I can't lift it, but they're significantly dropped right now. But I took measurements and it's going to sit just under the lip where the fender bolts on, right? So it's gonna just make it, right? And if it doesn't, I'll just do that, that trophy truck thing where I'll just have this big bump out it. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I'd figure something out. But as far as anything goes, it's in. The subframe is now in the car with the steering rack and the front suspension. And as you can see, I have my steering arm here, and it is surprisingly, I'm gonna have to trim just a little bit of, well, I have to trim a bunch of this anyways, this fender here, but basically that hole right there is the original hole for the steering column. So I'm thinking that this, with really not much angle on it at all, is gonna be just kind of nice. I may end up having to change this shape to drop it down a bit. Just for the sake of the steering column itself. It won't have any real effect on the knuckle over here. It'll just it'll change the angle a little bit, but because this isn't a drive shaft, we're not worried about harmonic balancing on it. So I'm not worried about that situation where you have your rear drive shaft like this and your gearbox like this, and your drive shaft it doesn't balance, it'll bind. So with the steering column, I'm not worried about that. As you can see, the engine mounts are nice. I know that it fits because as you've seen, I've had the body on the car with the engine in there, and although it's tight, it fits. So yeah. That does a fair bit of work there now. That is all the time I've got this episode. We got a lot of mechanical stuff done, and we have moved along to really the next big step that we're going to take in building this car, which is getting that front suspension and the shock towers into place, in the right place, so that I don't have to worry about any of the geometry that what BMW had engineered. So that's where we are now, and thank you so much for sticking around while I goofed around with this thing. I really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and if you get a chance, grab one of my Hornetic units. It's going to help me pay for the stuff I'm doing here, and just help me along with the channel. So really appreciate it. Thank you.